Living Show. I am Dr. Sam McDonald. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Thank you so much for jumping on.
That's perfect radio talk.
You like that?
Yeah, I
right
like
on.
that.
We got the fabulous, wonderful, and super intelligent Nikki Burnett from Taste Life Nutrition on today.
Hey
Nikki, what's up? What's happening?
You know, just playing.
Just playing.
Playing as much as I can.
Yeah?
A little bit of work, a lot of play.
A lot of play. And we need a lot of play right now. It's coming up on summertime.
Yeah.
And it's warm outside finally.
Man, it's amazing.
I'm hitting the park every single day with my kids, sometimes twice a day. So trying to get outside, trying to avoid the reality, honestly, right now. So, you know, we can't help but not talk about that starting. I keep joking with everybody, this week for me has been just kind of one of those weeks where it's like, just swimming upstream. That's it. Nothing too crazy, but it's just, you're digging through roots, and we all have those, right? We'll have to have those weeks to keep us in perspective, to keep us balanced, because otherwise, you can't just be smooth sailing all the time. That's no fun. That gets boring.
It would be nice, but then if you don't have the bad, you don't know the good.
Correct. We need that duality.
Yep.
So I just, I was thinking about that as I was writing some of this stuff up, and I want to throw this out there to everybody. If you have not heard of a gentleman, his name is Sergeant Ira Carter. I heard an interview with him yesterday. He is a police officer in Dallas, Texas. He was on an interview with another radio show. Yeah, hometown, D-Town Dougie. And he was on there, and he had some really fantastic stuff to share just about his journey, his life, and what's going on. So like I said, he's a police officer there, just what's happening. And one of the biggest pieces that I took away from it was, and something I was also thinking about, was, everybody's outraged right now. We're all outraged, as we should be, as of what we saw and as of what's been going on. Everybody should be outraged. But what my concern was, and something he brought up, was that outrage goes away. Like any kind of passionate feeling, it doesn't last. It's not permanent. So you need to have some sustainability behind that outrage. And I hope this movement has that. I hope that there is outrage now. We have protests and unfortunately rioting, which I don't personally agree with, the destruction of property. I do agree with trying to change the narrative and change what's going on systemically. But the same thing he talked about was, look, we got to have staying power with this. You have to have it keep going. You have to have change. And I started doing a little digging and research just in our particular field in healthcare, because yes, while there's problems in terms of systemic racism, there's also major problems in our healthcare. Just huge. Huge. I mean, statistically speaking, let me just put some facts out there for everybody here. So the U.S., our population is roughly 300 million people. Okay, so that's 5% of the world's population. In our country, we consume 60% of the world's drugs. 1 in 10 of those is an antidepressant. A quarter of all people are incarcerated. A quarter of all people in prison are incarcerated here in the United States of the entire world. So a quarter of the world's prison population is here in the United States. There's just a crazy stat out there. Even crazier is that there are more 17-year-old black individuals in jail versus than in college. So that was a crazy statistic for me. We are the world's fattest country. We also have the third worst poverty rate among developed nations, and the 4th largest wealth gap in the world, which is something that will kind of encroaches on what we're talking about in terms of how do you generate health and how do you do that, because you need money to be able to do anything, and you need resources to be able to do that. And if you don't, well, then you're going to be severely limited into food islands and poor nutrition and poor health and everything else that some of the stuff we'll get into. So, needless to say, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do. There's a lot of misinformation and poor information out there. There's a lot of people meaning to do the right thing that are spreading wrong information, and that's part of why I know why we connected with Nikki's, because, like I said, she's a freaking brainiac. She knows all this stuff.
Well,
super smart.
And Thank you for saying that.
Of course. And we got to get that out. So I want to just start with super basic. So food is an essential piece in life. And
food is life.
Food is life. And your show and your company Taste Life. I love that, because for me, food is such a cool thing because it brings cultures and people together. You can have a meal with somebody that you don't speak their language, and I have, and you can share some kind of commonality even though no words are shared. And I think that's a cool thing about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, food is very social. It's very fun. It's, and we have this really cool relationship with, most of us have a really cool relationship with food. Some of us don't, right? And those are the things that we try to understand and change. But, you know, we want to go and we want to share food with people.
Right. What would the unhealthy relationship with food look like? I'm curious about that.
You know, I think a lot of it is, you know, people who don't understand it and don't understand the food that is right for them. And so say it's somebody who is either overweight or somebody who is maybe bulimic or anorexic. Those are going to be some unhealthy relationships because there's, you know, there's a control factor, there's a misunderstanding of how to feed yourself. You know, I think there are lots and lots of factors that go into situations like that. But, you know, some people, you know, even if it's not that extreme, they will say, you know, I eat food and it just doesn't do well for me, or maybe it gives them pain. Right? So some food you can, you know, people can eat it. Like, I don't know why my stomach hurts so bad. I don't know why I'm so bloated. Why do I have such heartburn? I don't want to eat because it just hurts me to eat. You know.
Okay. So would that be poor food choices in terms of maybe what they're selecting? Like, I'm assuming obviously somebody's overweight, they've got poor nutritional choices, they've got poor food choices. They're most likely choosing foods that are either honestly not food. Like I joke, fast food is non-food like products.
Not food,
non-food like products.
There you go.
So stuff like that, or is it also just I don't know, the relationship with food, or maybe how they're consuming it? Because I know for a lot of people, hell, we're on the go all the time. Eating in the car, eating. You know, you get a 30-minute lunch break, so you got to wolf everything down. You don't even taste it.
Right.
How much does that affect it?
All of it. I mean, all of the things are going to affect it. So whether it's the wrong food, whether it's your health status, if you have an infection, if you have you know, an autoimmune condition, you know, all of these things are going to affect your digestion and your nutrient absorption. If you are wolfing your food down, you are in a state of fight or flight. My words, where are my words?
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. So you're in your sympathetic nervous system state, and all of your blood goes to your extremities. So it's not in your core, so it doesn't allow your core to function in a proper manner to break down, digest, and utilize the nutrients. So we want to bring that in and be calm and, you know, call it mindful eating, so you're not eating on the run. And but I think there's so many things that have to do with digestion. You know, you and I talk about this all the time, and it's going to be part of this conversation. Is we have the vagus nerve, and so the vagus nerve connects our brain and our gut, and they talk, and probably we do literally. I think we do a ton of our thinking with our gut. You know, we've heard it. You know, for years and years and years, we think with our gut, we go with our gut, but it's really true. And so if that nerve's not functioning properly, then you're going to have dysfunction there, both, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. You may not be able to swallow pills properly, so that can be a physical manifestation. You're not digesting your food properly. You're not thinking properly. So there's, you know, that's where why we have a job, because there's so many things that we have to take that time and break it down piece by piece. We look at the environment and the family dynamics and the trauma. Trauma's a big one. So past traumas, and then of course food and movement. And so it's we want to take all pieces of it and put together these programs for people to help them to get better. And then that's why we work so well together as referral partners, because I don't do biomechanics. I mean, and I don't do brain health well. I can support the brain, but he's all this biomechanical amazing coolness that I just fall in love with all the time. And so he's working on me too. And, you know, I get to ask questions and I get to learn from him, and so I get to send people to him, and then vice versa.
Exactly. Because for us, the whole metabolic component nature of everything is, I mean, it's a beast in itself. And there's a lot to be dealt with there in terms of you start talking about enzymes, you start about, you know, all the geeky sciencey stuff. It's overwhelming.
It's so much.
Let's start at the very beginning then. Let's talk about, everybody remembers that old school show back in the day, The Magic School Bus, right?
Yes.
Remember that show?
I don't know if I ever saw it.
You never saw it? Do you read the books?
So. No.
No? So, for those out there that maybe don't know it, I know it because...
Am I too old?
No, this is like...
is it older than that? Okay.
It's older than that. It was definitely in its heyday. At least the TV show was in its heyday when I was a kid. So, but definitely the books were there. Anyway, I know it only because I'm reading it to my kid now. We happen to be
Nice.
talking about the human body one, which is one of my favorites outside of outer space. But so the Magic School Bus in a nutshell was, this group of students who had this crazy, wacky teacher who had a magic bus that could transform, basically take them anywhere. Could take them underwater, it could take them into outer space. In the body episode, it actually took them inside the human body.
Fun.
Yeah, so they turned into a little piece of food and went inside one of the classmates and explored this digestion, the heart, the lungs, the brain, everything. So I think let's take a little Magic School Bus deep dive into digestion. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So walk us through the digestive process, and I'll try and interject in pieces and stuff as we go.
Wow.
So let's do that. So digestion. We're talking. You're sitting down.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day like today. You're gonna have lunch. You're in a cool cafe. Sandwiches in front of you. Nice side of vegetables.
Gluten-free, by the way.
Gluten-free sandwich. We'll talk about gluten. You're sitting at the cafe. They've got cool music playing. You've nowhere to be. You're total chill mode. All right, get started. We've taken that first bite of the sandwich.
Yeah.
It's decadent. It's delicious. What happens there?
So I would say, and that's really kind of the first place, is that you have painted the picture of being in a parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
So you are in a rest and digest. So you're ready to take that food in and enjoy it. So as you're salivating, right, you smell the food, digestion is starting. So you're smelling it, you're appreciating it, you're loving it. All the blood's going to the core. You've got the enzymes that are starting to this amylase is the particular one that is in the mouth and in the saliva to start to break down carbs and sugars. And so, but then everything else is going to start too. So as soon as you start to smell everything, the brain starts working, the gut starts working, your belly starts growling, right, if you're hungry, and all of the things, so your body's ready to start to work. And so and then you swallow it. So you've got to break it down. You've got to have your hydrochloric acid, which lots and lots of us have what's called hypochlorhydria.
Let's throw a pause real quick.
All right.
Going back up to the mouth, talking about what's happening there. Let's talk about something that maybe your mom or your grandma told you: chew your food more.
Chew your food.
How
well,
much?
yeah, that would be a part of the enjoying and tasting the food.
But
Yes.
how much should we be chewing it though?
I think you chew it until it's like as soft and gushy
Liquid,
as you
right?
can get it.
Basically,
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a lot. But if you're eating slowly, so what I try to do, it doesn't always work,
Sure.
but is take a bite and sit back and I talk to the husband and we hang out, and I talk and I chew and then swallow and wait a minute and then I take a bite and I sit back. It's that put the fork down and hang out. And when I'm in a super cool, relaxed mode, then it's easy to do because you're having fun, and maybe you have a glass of wine, and
Sure.
whatever it is that's just it makes you enjoy it, and eat slowly. That's kind of the thing is when you're eating slowly, you're enjoying it, and that's so. Yeah, you chew as much as you can, but
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I like that idea though. Put the fork down and chew. Versus, for us, it's like how fast can you shovel it in?
it's true. It's true. Well, a lot of times, and I've done it too. I'm like, I gotta go.
Yep.
And then one bite and it's gone. I'm like, that was sad.
Yeah. Took me an hour to make and took me 5 seconds to eat.
I know.
All right. Food's now
Yes.
been chewed. It's liquefied, swallowed, goes in. Now we're at the stomach.
Now we're at the stomach. So hydrochloric acid is really important. So there's a point that I want to make here that is only maybe a touch off topic, but not really. We have heard there's this theory out there, and it's not totally theory, but it's also not totally accurate, about acidic and alkaline foods and having our body acidic or alkaline, and organisms and cancer and things can't grow in an alkaline environment. Here's what we need to remember about that. Our digestive system looks really short. It's really not.
a lot happening between you
I'm
and
really
your,
short, but
and for our radio audience, between your collarbone and basically your belt.
yeah. And so throughout that time, throughout the gut, it changes from acidic to alkaline. You've got different pHs that go throughout, and that's intentional. It has to be that way.
Absolutely.
So we've got this alkaline water. We've got these alkaline like Tums and all of these things. You got to do alkaline all the time.
Yeah.
If you're doing alkaline all the time, what do you do in your stomach? Hydrochloric acid we have to have acid in our stomach in order to break down proteins and foods. Really, really important. If you're constantly drinking this water that's got this really high alkalinity, you're squashing that fire. You have to have a little bit of that fire in your belly, in your stomach, to break it down. So be very, very careful and be aware of that, because then also if it's moving down, if it's in an alkaline space, that's fine. But if it goes in through an acidic space, what's happening? Well, you're alkalizing what's supposed to be acid. What happens then is microbes can overgrow. You may not digest your food properly. Yeast and all kinds of things that aren't supposed to be in that place. If the pH changes, then what can happen is you have, and this can happen for a lot of reasons, not because of alkaline water, antibiotics and all kinds of stuff, but you can have these microbes that go into a place that in the gut that they're not supposed to be. They might be alkaline microbes going into acidic and vice versa, and it creates all kinds of nastiness. What in particular called SIBO, it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's not supposed to be there because the alkalinity was off, or I'm sorry, the pH was off. So, point to that is a lot of us are dealing with what's called hypochlorhydria, which is a lack of hydrochloric acid, and it happens as we age. So, we can test that by taking hydrochloric acid a certain amount, but you can also, frequently, maybe nightly before you go to bed, do apple cider vinegar. It's a great thing to help build your hydrochloric acid. It's just a great thing anyway. It's got good bugs in it, probiotics, that kind of thing. So, are we going to keep going?
Let me expand on some of that, because some people may not remember biology or chemistry class back in 6th grade, the pH and all that kind of
You're
stuff.
making me remember a lot of things.
Yeah, here we are. So, for those that don't remember, the pH scale goes from 1 to 14, and what Nikki's talking about is the acid-base balance. So anything, a 7 would be considered neutral. Anything above a 7 is considered alkaline or basic, like your pumpkin spice lattes. There you go, joke for the day. Or below that is called...
I don't even get it.
No?
No.
All the basics? I'll tell you later. Don't worry about it. For all the basic bees out there. Don't worry about it. Anyway, anything below a 7 is going to be considered acidic. So your stomach acid has a pH of 2. Okay? So pH is measuring the alkalinity or the acidic and basic of a substance, chemical, whatever it is. So let's just say stomach acid has a pH of 2, and it should be super acidic. One, like she's talking about, to break down proteins. You need that to be able to absorb certain B vitamins. B vitamins are critical, one, because they're used in pretty much every part of your body.
Everything.
Depleted by stress, and I think all of us are feeling extra stress nowadays.
Take
so
your B vitamins together, not separate.
Together. Take them all together. You need them because they're depleted when you're stressed. Along with that, the pH in your body, like she's saying too, should be somewhere around like seawater. It's like a 7.4 to 7.6. So if you're drinking a 10 pH crazy water that is super alkaline, yeah, man, you're squashing that digestive fire. You're not doing yourself a favor.
No.
And it's totally messing you up. I want to add in too what she's talking about too, with what can also change the alkalinity. If you are a person who is trying to change the pH of your body, you got to look at something called voltage. Okay, so voltage is electricity. We are all electrical beings. We all have electricity coursing through our body every single day.
So amazing.
It is.
I
It's
love
awesome.
that. It's the coolest thing.
We're all big electrical chemical whirlpools, and we need that electricity. So what happens is if you start to become what's called more positive. So all of us have a resting voltage of what should be around negative 25 millivolts if you're healthy. As you become more unhealthy, that voltage becomes more positive, so more towards 0 and then towards positive states. They can actually measure and check people who are cancerous and find that they actually have a higher voltage.
So cool.
It's correlated.
So cool.
As organs or as your body becomes more dysfunctional, that happens. If you were to, let's say, injure your thumb, let's say you hit your thumb with a hammer, what's going to happen in a normal healthy individual is that voltage is actually going to drop to around negative 50. And it's going to start to replace those cells so your thumb heals and doesn't get all gross and disgusting. But what happens if you have that decrease or that lack of voltage, stuff starts to break down, you get problems in terms of producing hydrochloric acid. Because if we all remember, pH is also looking at electrons. Voltage is where we're talking about in terms of chemistry and electrons. Adding more voltage to a particular organ or cell is going to change the pH. So if you want to go out, walk barefoot in the grass. If you're near the ocean, swim in the ocean. If you're here in Colorado, go to the mountains, hit the streams, any free-flowing, moving body of water is going to help to increase, as you would say, increase in terms of, you know, getting more negative voltage and make you healthier.
So it's interesting that, you know, because one of the things, and this is not anywhere close to a moving body of water like a river. How amazing is a river? We love the river, right?
Totally.
Everybody loves the river. Or the ocean. But we always hear about the salt rocks, right?
Yeah.
The salt rocks have negative ions that they put off. I'm curious if you know what if that's, I know that it puts it off. I mean, salt's an amazing element.
Yep.
But does it put off as much? Does it put off much? Do you know if it really makes a difference?
I think it helps, absolutely. I mean, just the psychological effect of, hey, having something there. I haven't seen anything on how much they actually do help in terms of emitting those, you know, those free electrons into the air. It's the way I kind of tell people in some of that stuff. It's kind of like praying. Probably can't hurt. So
praying is always good.
Always
praying
good.
is good.
Exactly. But I haven't seen anything that shows pro or con against them.
Yeah, I haven't either. I heard one time, again, I can't help but to get a little bit off topic, but somebody said, so we got a salt rock, and they told us he can help with allergies and blood pressure and da-da-da. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
You better roll in it.
It's probably got to be like, I don't know if you've ever been to any of those like cool, like far out there saunas that have like the whole salt room.
Yeah.
You probably got to live in one of those to get rid
exactly.
of it.
to
actually get rid of that kind of stuff, you probably need to do that.
Oh, so funny. Anyway.
Back to the stomach. Here we are. All right. You're a healthy individual. You've got a good 2 pH stomach acid. You just turn that gluten-free sandwich into whatever. Now what? Now we go into where?
Oh my gosh, you're making me do.
You don't have to go specific. Like, hey, now we go into the small intestine, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about it.
So yeah, you're gonna go to the small intestines where, you know, the food breaks down and breaks down more and is starting to assimilate, right? So one of the things that we can go off with that is when we hear you've heard the term leaky gut.
Yep.
And so what can happen in leaky gut is that, you know, the area in the gut, those cells can come apart. And so when those cells come apart, then food, microbes, yeast, bacteria, whatever that's not supposed to go through at that point gets through too early. And so this can create, you know, food sensitivities, allergies, autoimmune disease, all kinds of fun stuff. So that's one of the negative things that can happen.
Absolutely.
There.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, definitely leaky gut. Although I think it's weird, is it actually acknowledged by Western medicine now? Last I heard it wasn't, which is like
well, yeah. I think I had a client. It's been a couple of years ago whose doctor said that it's a bunch of bogus. But I mean, it's fact. I mean, you can look at the gut and you can see that the cells are coming apart and that things are getting through. There's no getting around the science of leaky gut and how it works. And you know, in practice, when you also can see it on labs. You know, you measure zonulin, or you can measure what's called lipopolysaccharides, and those things. And there are a couple others, but you can measure those that get through the gut. And if they're in the bloodstream, they're supposed to be in the gut. If they're in the bloodstream, then guess what? You've got a leaky gut. So I mean, the data's there. You know, but you know, it's not always easy to keep up with all of the things.
Sure.
And, you know, as practitioners of whatever kind, some people just want to do what they do and they are there and that's okay. And, you know, some want to, you know, research and continue with the, you know, learning. Not that they don't. I was trying to not say that negatively, but anyway.
Hey, it's called practice for a reason, right? You have to keep up with what's happening, what's changing, and obviously the diseases and problems of 50 years ago are not going to be the same as today.
Right.
Yep. So I mean, things change, our environment changes, so we have to keep up with that.
Yep.
What was I going to say about that? It was an interesting. Besides I'm stuck on the zonulin word because it sounds like a space invader.
Zonulin, sorry, I should. So zonulin is a chemical. So it's a natural, I believe it's a protein.
Yeah.
But it's a natural protein in the body that we've had for years. And it actually is sort of our regulator of the cells. And so the cells are tight like this. When zonulin goes up, the cells come apart. And so it can happen in pregnancy. It can happen, there are times when it happens, and I believe, if I remember back, you know, when we were hunters and gatherers and that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain conditions in which it would open up, but then it would go back. It would come back together again. So zonulin goes up and down for a number of reasons. The problem, like with lots of things that we deal with, is when it stays elevated.
Yeah.
And so that continuous elevation, just like continually elevated cortisol, is a problem. But it's not a problem when it spikes. When zonulin spikes, comes open for a little bit, does its job, goes back, closes up again.
Huh.
So yeah, so we want to, I mean, when we test that, and especially when I test my clients, and I think we're doing good work and it's still elevated, I'm like, okay, we got more work to do,
Yep.
but we can watch it come down. It's the coolest thing. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Labs rock.
One of the cool things, I learned this within the past 6 months, and it really spoke to me because I've had multiple concussions. So I played football growing up.
Oh man.
And the crazy thing, I know there's research out there on this, but actually within 20 minutes of a head trauma, you'll actually have leaky gut.
Leaky gut,
Mm-hmm.
automatic leaky gut with head trauma. So
Yeah.
and that's a huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
because when you think about these people, whether you're the kids playing football
Yep.
or any sports, you have your fighters with constant concussions, and you think of poor Muhammad Ali. That is essentially what has happened.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, based on a fairly educated guess, that that's basically what has happened, is you have these constant concussions without doing the work, without doing the repairing, and but nobody knew.
For sure.
And it creates, it might manifest as autoimmune disease, it might manifest as Parkinson's. I mean, does he have Parkinson's? Is that?
He did, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
not alive
with
anymore,
us anymore. I forgot.
Correct.
But that's what can happen.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people, later in life, you've got 10, 20 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, what is wrong with me? Why are these things happening? It's because the leaky gut, the problem was never addressed.
Right.
It's a scary thing, and it's a really big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think finding it more and more so. And
Yeah.
I guess to talk about some of the particles that go into the bloodstream that you're testing for. To me, it always, looking really simply. So, like, what is all foods are broken down, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Proteins are broken down to amino acids.
Mhm.
Fats are broken down to essential fatty acids, and then you have your carbohydrates are broken down mostly in the mouth, but then absorbed as simple glucose and other sugars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that's being transmitted now into the body, and with any kind of like these leaky gut issues, you have the immune system attacking whether it's the proteins, whether it's possibly the gluten, which we'll talk about in just a second, because gluten to me is something that honestly I didn't give much credence before until kind of looking into some of it now, and I think it's kind of like a hydra. It's not just a one-headed like, oh, gluten's bad because
Right.
it's gluten. No, it's bad
There's a
because
lot to
it's
it.
a freaking Frankenstein and it's insane.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, but what's crazy is like how this stuff works, and people are wondering how does food become a problem for your body? Because you're eating food, it shouldn't be an issue. There's something in labs and research that they look at. It's called molecular mimicry. So when your gut is leaky, these tight junctions have opened up, so you have this holes in the wall, as they say. The body's going to start to tag these food particles, and it's going to start to attack them. The problem with that is these food particles look a lot like normal biological tissue in the body. So like your thyroid can look really similar to gluten, right? So your body's going to say, hey, the thyroid's bad because it looks like gluten, so we got to attack both. Or, and what we see a lot with people is it also looks like cerebellar tissue. For those that have maybe stuck with us the whole time, the cerebellum is what's called the little brain. It sits below your cortex, the back of your head. Basically, if you touch your neck, go up to where your hairline is, it's kind of in that area. Primarily responsible for balance and coordination, but also coordination of thought. Everybody probably has experienced some kind of issues with this when you drink too much. All of a sudden you can't walk very well if you've gone way off the deep end, or you start to slur your words. You just can't seem to find your words. You can't seem to coordinate what the heck's going on up in your brain because that part of your body is getting destroyed by your own immune system.
Right.
So gluten, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about this crazy
Yeah,
thing.
gluten is one of those things, because, what I know, and I always try to approach, whether it's the fad diets or food in itself or whatever it is, I really am, on the fence until I have the data. And so what we all know is bread or some form of bread or some form of wheat has been consumed almost since the dawn of time, right? And so why is it a problem? Why is it a problem now? And so I get, yeah, of course, you know, why I don't get it. So somewhere, I don't know dates, but somewhere Industrial Revolution, maybe just before, you know, I don't know whose big idea it was, but you know, gluten is that sticky, yummy, gooey. It's what makes bread yummy and pastries yummy, right? And so the scientists started to hybridize the gluten, or the wheat grain. And so hybridization is something that is natural in the world, right? If you have a wheat, and there are two different types of wheat, they can still come together and create another type of wheat. Whereas, just to be clear, gluten or wheat today, at least at this point, is not genetically modified. So I do think that they're working on it. Great. But what we have right now is, as far as I know to date, it's all hybridized. So it happens normally in the world where genetic modification is like putting a tomato and a salmon together. It would never happen. It would never work. Okay. So they took this gluten, the wheat grain, and they increased the gluten content of it by, I think it's like 300%. It's an amazing amount, especially when you think of what gluten can do. It can bypass the blood-brain barrier. It hits the morphine receptors in the brain, and that's why we're like, I have to have my bread, and I have to have my pasta, and I can't live without it because it's the best thing in the world. Same with dairy, same with sugar. It's that we have to have it. It is a little bit of that addictive thing, so it is very chemical. And so that's what I try to get people to realize is you have to understand that in order to know, okay, this is doing this to me and I have to get off of it because it's also then creating these other issues. Bear with me, we'll get into it. So what happens though is gluten is one of the things, and think about it, you know, if it's heirloom wheat is what you'll get over like in Europe. You can get a little bit of it here. And so most people, unless they're celiac, don't react to it. Here though, because the amount is so high and it does bypass the blood-brain barrier, it does increase zonulin, it opens up those cell walls in the brain. There is such thing as leaky brain, or they call it, you know, blood-brain barrier permeability or gut intestinal permeability. And it literally can open those up, and it can create brain fog, obviously autoimmune disease we talked about. It can create anxiety, depression, joint pain, and then of course gut pain and bloating and the whole thing. And so on top of all of that, it's one of the highest things in pesticides and herbicides. So if you're eating regular hybridized wheat that's not organic, it's got pesticides and herbicides in it, you're killing your microbiome, you're opening up the cell walls, you're letting in bad bugs. I mean, it's just kind of this nasty little vicious cycle that gluten, if you're eating it on a regular basis or even just periodically, can create. And I guarantee you, if you're having, I don't guarantee you, 98% of my clients who eat gluten, and I ask them to get off, they notice something, whether it's they're not fatigued anymore, they're sleeping better, their knee pain's gone away, their brain fog's gone away, almost every time. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Let's put a pause on that for just a second for station identification. This is KUHS Denver. We are The Stream. And this show is sponsored by my wife and I and my practice, Wild and Precious Optimal Living. So we are a family practice, a neurologically based chiropractic and functional neurology office located in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. So if you are someone who maybe you're listening and now you're a person who's struggling with autoimmune conditions, maybe you have a child that is struggling with some neurosensory problems, whether it's ADD, ADHD, and you're just looking for a different approach. Maybe you've been to the gauntlet of doctors, you've tried everything and nothing seems to be working, or you're just looking for a different kind of approach, a non-pharmaceutical approach, then I invite you to give us a call. Why don't you come check out our office, check out our website, and find out if maybe we can be the right office for you. We can schedule you a complimentary consultation. Our phone number is 720-667-3650. So again, please reach out to us. Let us know if we can help.
All right, so I have to jump in. Because I'm a patient. And so I think it's super cool. And so I just, as a patient, and wasn't my intent when we met for me to be a patient, but
right.
I have brain work to do. I think probably a lot of us do. He did tell me I had a little ADD. I'm like, well, that helps explain my lack of focus. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Anyway, so you really should know that this is not your everyday chiropractic office. And I know some really amazing chiropractors, but this is really with some, they also do adjustment.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
they have games. Like I go in and I'm looking forward to playing games, but they're really hard. Actually, they're really, really hard, and I get really mad because I don't do very well at them. But it's not just games, right? It's brain work. And so the laser, they use the laser a lot. And then I'm not good at talking about it because,
I'll fill in what she's talking about.
Okay,
so
good, do it.
picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
Anyway, so there's lots of testing to understand what part of your brain's not working properly, and then they're doing the exercises and the games and the things to help your brain work properly. They've got all kinds of trinkets and gadgets and machinery and fun stuff to help you get your brain function the where you want it to be. I think as we age, we all kind of lose that a little bit. And I went in knowing I had a couple of things that I wanted to work on my own show. I've said it multiple times. I have a problem with focus, and I want to be able to really focus, and I want my words to come to me well. Probably noticed a couple of times today. I'm like, my words aren't coming to me. It does happen, and it's really frustrating. That happens to you. There's something loco. There's something going on, right? And so this is I'm super excited about this. I'm just getting started, but to see where I'm going to be in a few months is an awesome thing, and to know that what I'm doing is truly optimizing, because when I'm optimized, I have more capability of optimizing those around me, whether it's my family, my clients, whatever it is. So, sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Thank you for that. That was really nice. Thank you. So just a couple things. A couple things she was talking about. Our approach we look at is developmental functional neurology. So literally building your brain from the bottom up. So like some of the things she's mentioning, we're looking at primitive reflexes. We're looking at your cerebellum, your balance and coordination. And let me backtrack. Primitive reflexes are these things we all have in the first year of life, and we should have them. They're there to help our brains grow. But at a certain point when your brain's developed, they should go away. And it's a marker for us to look and see how well has the brain developed. Why are these here? It could be from the fact your brain never developed. It could be from an autoimmune condition.
Can you imagine your brain never developing?
Not fully. That's
scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I tell people, it's like running around with, trying to ride a bicycle while other people are on the highway driving a car. It's just you're trying to keep up in this crazy fast-paced world. And you have, however these came back, whether it could be a number of different things. We'll never know really what it is. But you have these primitive reflexes that grow into your cerebellum to be able to, you go from crawling to walking, and then you go from walking to talking, and then you're now almost a full-fledged human as you're interacting in the world and you're talking to people and you're doing everything you need to do. And that's how we look at the brain and how we look at the body is what's happening neurologically, which is going to affect everything else, which kind of gets back to what we're talking about with this whole gluten piece, as Nikki's talking about. It interrupts pathways in the brain. And it's interesting, you said there is no GMO wheat, because I've heard different.
Yeah, a lot of people will confuse hybridization with genetic modification. And
Okay.
so what I'll say is it's been probably a year ago when I read that they were in the process of genetically modifying wheat.
Okay.
But to date, as far as I know, there's none on the market, but that doesn't mean that I'm absolutely correct about that.
Okay. So I'll just throw in what I've read and heard about these things is that with wheat, the company Monsanto, some people may have heard of them, some people haven't. They're now under the parent corporation of Bayer, and what they were successful in doing was taking wheat and making what's called Roundup Ready.
Right.
So to me, I would consider that genetically modified, because what that means is they basically took a plant crop and had a pesticide now in the DNA of the crop.
Right. And so yes, with corn, soy, alfalfa, I'm missing a big one. There's some zucchinis. Anyway, those are all Roundup Ready.
Yeah, but not wheat.
I don't think so.
Okay.
This is why I'm sure this is right, because I know that it's hybridized. It's not genetically modified yet. But I think that's probably why they're genetically modifying it now, is for the sake of the crops. Right. Which is bogus, by the way, because yields actually go down. And you get super bugs and you get super weeds, and it's totally bogus. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I digress.
No, but let's go into that. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
So genetic modification, for these types of crops, they did it because they thought that they could control bugs better, control weeds better. They thought the yield would go up. This goes back to several years ago, right, in food politics, and it's been a long time since I've really studied food politics.
Sure.
But my understanding, at least at that time, was yields were actually 20% less. And so, and because bugs, things mutate, they get better, they become resistant. You get super bugs, just like with us, we use antibiotics all the time. Well, we're trying to kill these bugs. Well, they mutate, then they become a bug that aren't controlled by that type of antibiotic. And then maybe they're not controlled at all because we use all of these antibiotics all the time, and we're killing our gut and all of these things, and we use sanitizer, and it's all of the craziness, right?
Right.
But that's what's happening, is these bugs and these weeds are changing. They're mutating, and they are no longer resistant to things like glyphosate, which is, as if you haven't heard this, please pay attention, has been shown to be a carcinogen, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I think, is what it's causing. So just stay away from it. Don't put it in your yard, for the love of Pete, for your sake, for your animals' sake, for your kids' sake, for everybody around you, for your environment. And on top of that, just if we get rid of glyphosate, there are many others that are just like it. And my understanding is there's one that they're using instead of glyphosate now that's actually worse than glyphosate. But they can say it's not glyphosate.
Correct.
Just stay away from the chemicals. This stuff is not okay. Monsanto and Bayer, I hope I don't get sued for this, but in my opinion, I can say what I want. They're not okay. None of this is okay. Vinegar kills weeds, or eat them. Dandelions, just pick them and eat them. They're amazing. Stick them in your salad. Stick them in your refrigerator, just like you were going to the grocery store. So just don't put this stuff in your yard. I mean, we've got stuff. You might have a few dandelions. They're pretty. They're yellow. Let them grow.
They're also a superfood, which blows me away. We somehow want to destroy a superfood.
Yeah. So the root is what is beneficial and supportive for the liver, and the leaves and the stems and the flower. Use them for a tea. They're diuretic. They're amazing. I mean, just eat them. Eat your weeds, people.
Eat your weeds. Colorado.
Not
eat your
weed. Not weed.
All right, so we've gone 45 minutes, and we haven't talked about the microbiome yet.
Let's do that, because I talked about it earlier, and I have something I want to say.
Let's go. All right,
okay?
So now small intestine, food's been processed. We're moving through. We're going now to the large intestine, right? We're moving on there.
Boom.
This is where the lovely poop is made, and that kind of stuff too.
Lovely. That's one I've never heard before.
No? Oh, I mean, well,
lovely poop.
It's one of the 5 signs of life. You have to be able to eliminate. It's important, trust me, because we've seen plenty of people that have come in that, constipation's a real thing, and it's not fun.
Tough stuff.
So, not good.
Literally.
But microbiome.
Yep.
All right, bugs, we've talked about them. What you got?
All right, so one of the things that I wanted to hit on, it's fresh. I did a Facebook Live earlier with my health coach, and so we were talking about PPIs, so acid blockers. And I want to put this out there because
what does PPI stand for?
Proton pump inhibitor. And so they're acid blockers. They're not all PPIs, but that's a big portion of them. And so I kind of want to start there. I hope that's okay, because it is so disruptive to everything that we do. And so many people are put on these, whether they're prescription or over the counter. We're told, and I mean, think Tums, right? You have heartburn, I'm going to go take a bunch of Tums.
Right.
Please don't.
Please don't.
So
we'll talk about heartburn in just a second. Why that's a whole crazy.
Let's do 2 hours.
All right. Let's keep going.
So
I said you're going to come on, and you're going to come here on more than once. We got a lot to talk about. We can't cover it all in now.
Okay, so what happens, so we're getting heartburn, we have, upset stomach, whatever it is, we think we need to we're squashing that fire, so we think we have too much acid, when really it's not enough, and there's some dysfunction going on, so we don't need to go into that because we don't have the time, but we have to have that acid. We talked about that, we hit on that a little while ago, we have to have it, you cannot squash it, or we're not digesting our food. So what happens is we don't digest or utilize. Sorry, utilize is my word. Calcium, magnesium, obviously protein. It disrupts our microbiome. So, our microbiome are our bugs. We are nothing but bug carriers. Well, we're probably a little more than that, but we're big bug carriers, and our bugs. So we have our microbiome, and then we have our microbiota, so our gut microbiota and our oral microbiota, and so forth. And those are all really important to keep healthy. So we have lots and lots of these bugs, and we have good bugs and bad bugs, and we have some that are just sort of in the middle that have the potential of being bad if we allow it to happen. Yes. So, eating good fermented foods, and if you need to take probiotics, and rolling in the dirt, and yeah, good stuff.
Play in the
Go
dirt.
play in the dirt. Go in your garden. Go roll in the grass. Play with your dog. All of the fun things helps to build your microbiome, which is upward of 70% of your immunity, and it's 90% of your serotonin production, which is your happy neurotransmitter. Everybody thinks your neurotransmitters are all up here. You have to have a healthy gut to have healthy neurotransmitters. So PPIs interfere with all of that. And so what can happen too, if you've been diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, think about if you're utilizing your food properly. Probably not. Think about if you've been taking a PPI that's indicated for 2 weeks. Maybe you've been taking it for 10 years because you're told it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
There's
then
no side effects. It's fine.
it's fine. It's fine. Besides osteopenia and maybe cancer, and maybe because you're not breaking down, utilizing your magnesium, now you're having heart problems. So, I mean, we can go. How many nutrients are we trying to take in that we're not utilizing, and how many bodily functions are not functioning properly because we don't have the nutrients?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm talking too much, but I have one last thing to say on it.
No, keep going. That's why you're here.
I know, but I feel like I'm taking over, and I don't really
Love
want
it.
to. But I say this on all of my shows, and I say it everywhere and almost every time I talk, because I think I can't get enough of it, and I feel like everybody needs to hear it no matter what, maybe 10 times. So food is a language, and food is what tells our body what to do. It talks to our DNA, and it talks to our cells. So, this goes back to our relationship with food. Some of us have an amazing relationship with it, some of us have a terrible relationship with it, but it's more than a social thing. This is how our body knows what to do. So if we're eating good, healthy, clean food, we've got this clean line of communication directly to our cells and to our DNA, and our body's like, got it, okay, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we're eating, unhealthy food full of pesticides, herbicides, chemicals, McDonald's, whatever it is that you're doing, this sends a really unclear, broken line of communication to the cells and to the DNA. So we have a lot of redundancy, kind of like an airplane, and so it'll work pretty well for a little while until the body gets to a point where it's like, I don't know what to do. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And so what does it do? It starts knocking on the door and it says, I have pain, or I have bloating, or I have this disease, or I have all of these things. It's our body talking to us. Whatever the symptoms are, we can't blame it on genetics, and we can't blame it on bad luck or whatever it is. We have to take accountability. What we put into our body is what's going to come out. Not literally at this point, but
In about a day.
Yeah, in 10 years, 20 years, or whatever, right? And so our goal, we want to live a good, long life, but it's about living life well. We don't know how long we're going to live.
Correct.
Right? But we want to live really well and on our feet for as long as we possibly can, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so that's what, I don't want to be in a wheelchair going, man, I wish I could walk.
Right.
Anyway, so we gotta think of food as what it actually is, but it also is delicious.
Food is delicious, and I love that messaging signals to your body. And yeah, something we talk a lot about with people too, and definitely needs to be reiterated, because repetition is the engine of learning. Brain learns through repetition,
Yes.
and hearing this time again, your health choices are the consequence of your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And what you put into your body, because I haven't seen anybody yet being forced at gunpoint to eat something. Haven't seen it yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Haven't seen it. But
doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
Doesn't mean it hasn't happened or it's not currently happening right now, but I haven't seen it happen yet. But majority of people out there, your daily life, no one's forcing you to eat certain things. It's all the product of your decision. And definitely want to jump back to something you're talking about in terms of all these different things knocking at the door, the symptoms and stuff that are going on, not just physical, but also mental. So
Absolutely.
the PPI is interrupting what's happening in the gut. Back to what's being produced. Serotonin, like Nikki talked about, is an important critical hormone in the brain because, as we talked about back on episode 1 in the whole sex episode, talking about...
I missed that one. I'm sorry I missed it.
It was awesome.
I'll go back and watch it.
We'll jump back to it. We'll talk more about that in future episodes. But serotonin is that hormone of satisfaction and, as you talk about, the feel-good hormone. But it's also the primary fuel for our immune system. So when we're creating serotonin from those, activated vitamin D in our body, it goes up to our brain, gets processed, and then gets pushed out as fuel for the immune system. So everybody's out here scrubbing this and disinfecting that and sanitizing everything. We're creating, new strains of superbugs and, hospital staph and hospital bugs and everything else, as they would be called. All that can somewhat be bypassed by having good, healthy food habits, creating serotonin in our body, fueling that immune system, and also, guess what? In general, just feeling good.
Yeah.
Because if you get the blahs, if you're a person who, hey, I feel down all the time, just life sucks, blah, 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 well, yeah, maybe something happening from your food choices.
Yeah, your microbiome may not be very happy with you.
Exactly. And in terms of immune system function in general, that there is a competition constantly happening in your gut, like she was explaining. There's competition happening where you have the good bugs and you have the bad bugs, and guess what? You have those bugs that succumb to peer pressure.
I love that. It's so true.
Yeah. They're going to go one way or the other, right? They're going to, hey, you know what? The bad guys are hanging out here. Let's go tag up the walls and let's go destroy things. Or, you know what? Hey, let's actually help break down food and do what we're supposed to do.
I love them to take that. I like it.
The peer pressure bugs. So, but what do you have? You have one or the other, and you have this. You could have this overgrowth of the bad bugs that are there, which is going to cascade into everything else. Or if you're consuming good quality, organic, healthy foods, it's going to lead into not only just feeling good, not having these aches and pains, but just talk about energy levels for a second. So let's just paint a picture of the human being that's consuming good quality foods for years and years and years. You get the person who, you walk into the room and people are like, you look radiant.
Yeah.
Oh, you look, you're glowing.
Yeah.
Or the person, how old are you? Oh, I'm such and such age. Oh my God, I would have thought that you were 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're taking care of yourself. Because literally everything in your body gets replaced. The lining in your intestine gets replaced every 3 days?
Is it? I don't remember. I know our whole body takes like 7 years, right?
Something like that. So you have, I think bones take the longest.
Totally new. Isn't that weird though? We're totally new.
Yep. Every 7 years you're basically you are the amalgamation.
You are somebody else.
You are the amalgamation of everything that you've been consuming for the past 7 years. But I mean, nerve system tissue, I believe, is replaced every 8 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But think about, what would you rather your body be made of? Would you rather it be made of McDonald's and fast food? And I'm going to keep railing on McDonald's because their food is
disgusting.
Not good.
It's
not good stuff. And also, their whole origin story is not good either.
True,
anyway,
I saw that.
Yeah, it's awful. And with the same last name too. No relation to the company. Trust me on that one. But think about, what would you rather your body be made of? Would you rather be made of that kind of crap and that kind of garbage, or would you rather be made of actual real food from real things? And how much better that's going to make you feel? That's going to make you function, and ultimately, what's the trajectory of your health? Are you heading towards that vibrant, healthy future? Or are you heading towards the nursing home? As we tell people, what's your choice? Do you want to head to the cruise ship, or you head to the nursing home? Because that's where you're going to go.
Gosh.
You're going to be wheelchair bound, you're going to be forgetful, you're going to be all over the place in terms of just where you are. And ultimately, to me, what's one of the saddest things is having to rely so much on other people to take care of you, and how much of an extra burden that creates for people.
Yeah. On family, on friends, on economy, on everything.
On all of it. And how much that can destroy you. Yeah, man. So today was super fun.
Stuff.
This was a super fun show. I really enjoyed it. We have so much we didn't even talk about. We mentioned the vagus nerve.
I know. It was supposed to be the one thing we talk about, but
we got 5 minutes left, so let's talk a little bit about the vagus nerve. Okay, so we talked about that. Vagus.
Sounds super fun, huh?
Not Las Vegas.
No.
Not Vagus. It's Latin. It means wanderer. And the reason they call it that is because this nerve runs from your brain stem, so where your spinal cord, the back of your body, connects into your brain. This nerve runs from there down to the top 2/3 of your digestive system. It controls and coordinates that whole parasympathetic response that Nikki was talking about, which is your rest, recover, and restore. Okay, with like alliteration helps things to remember. Rest, recover, and restore. Rest, digest, and heal. You need that. You need that relaxation response to be able to properly consume your food. Because if you're in that chronic fight or flight state, that fight, flight or freeze actually is more accurate now as we're learning more.
Yeah.
You get a whole host of issues in terms of breaking down your food. So Vegas, super important. Maybe the city, but mostly the nerve.
Probably the nerve more important.
Probably
than
the
the city.
nerve. Probably more. Well, I could take or leave Las Vegas. To be honest, but
yeah. Done with Vegas.
But
Vegas.
That Vegas. But this one's super critical. Okay, so you need that parasympathetic response. You need to be able to calm yourself and unwind. So in the last couple minutes, let's just talk about a couple things. What can people do to start to just chill out before they're about to sit down and have a meal?
This is a great thing because it's so easy and nobody does it. Well, not nobody, but all we really have to do is take it, smell it. Really, how fun is it to smell your food? Because it smells amazing.
Right.
So it gets everything going. If you pray over it. I don't pray over it as often as I should, or even meditate over it and just know where it came from and be grateful for where it came from and be grateful for having it in front of you. You know, those are the things that kind of bring you to this place of ease and gratitude and love. Even if it's just food, this is biochemical changes. It's amazing what it does to your body. So then, hang out with your family. Don't watch TV.
Don't be on your phone.
Don't be on your phone, right? Go outside. That's where my husband and I like to go. We go out in the backyard and eat and hang out. We have a little river that runs by us, which is always kind of fun. And we sit by that, and so that, you know, sort of makes, you know, levels it up a little bit because we got the water going. And then just enjoy it. Eat it slowly. Taste it. Talk about it, you know, and appreciate it. Put the fork down.
Love that.
Just have fun with your food. Even if you have a food fight, that'd be fun too.
That'd be fun too. Unless it's spicy, that'd be painful. Avoid the eyes.
Yeah, maybe just gluten-free spaghetti.
Gluten-free spaghetti fight. Love it.
I almost just said spaghetti. I'm like, that would be dumb.
No, I always try, on food fights, I always pick spinach. As a kid, no one likes it. It's like squishy. It was perfect.
Ooh, canned spinach.
Canned spinach was great.
Don't eat canned spinach.
No, not good. Don't do that.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Ugh.
One last tangent before we jump off, because I love thinking about like the gratitude piece and sitting down, looking at all that. Definitely, for those that may know this, some don't. There was a Japanese scientist who did the study on water. Right, you remember like the gratitude piece on water, how it changed it.
Yeah.
So think about it. We're 70% water. Majority of our food has a ton of water in it. So if you sit down right before you have a meal, boom, gratitude for that food. Thank you, food, for where you came from. Thank you to the people that harvested it. Thank you to the people that drove it here. You know, just real quick in your mind, you can do that and just say, thank you for this food that I'm about to eat. It's going to nourish my body. And how much that could chemically change what happens in your body and in the food.
That's beautiful.
Right?
That's a great way to
What a cool wrap right there.
I love that.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in today.
High five.
High five on that one. No social distancing here. Thank you, folks, for tuning in today to the Wild and Precious Optimal Living podcast. This has been a fun one. I've enjoyed this one today.
Yeah.
So again, we are on KUHS Denver, the stream, and if you're in the Denver area or if you're not, we see clients from a lot of different places. If you're one who's struggling with autoimmunity, if you're struggling with neurosensory issues and you're looking for help, you're looking for hope, please give us a call. Wild and Precious Optimal Living, 720-667-3650. And also, hit up Taste Life Nutrition.
Yep.
So Nikki is super wicked smart, man. She knows a ton. She knows a lot. That's why we work with her. That's why we hang out, because, man, she gets it. She knows it. She can put it all together. And so I want to leave everybody with a question. What do you want in your one wild and precious life?
I like it.